Hello everybody, welcome back to Gentlemen First Cinephiles. We have a different setup today and I'm obsessed with it. I'm pretty in love. But today we're here to kind of talk about not really like a particular film, but a film event in general. I'm very late to this, so just so you guys know, but I still think it's something really important to talk about and reflect on, and I'm just super interested in what you guys think about it, so please connect with us on Instagram, all that stuff. We're actually coming to the end of my apology week. This is today's podcast. Tomorrow I'm doing a remake episode on The Man Who Knew Too Much, comparing the Doris Day version to that of the Peter Lorre version. Then we're going to be back to the usual schedule. However, the really exciting thing is that I'm so excited to announce is this upcoming Saturday on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify, like all the places you can listen to us, we're actually starting up a Saturday show, and it's part of why I've been a little absent these last couple weeks. But the new Saturday show is going to have a co-host. His name is Nick. I think you guys are going to like him a lot. And he's going to be joining me on Saturdays to talk about some really cool stuff. The first episode we're doing is military identity in film, so that's going to be super, super exciting. And then, yeah, we're going to be here every Saturday, him and I, so that'll be super awesome. Also, coming up on the podcast is some really, really exciting guest spots, but it's also so important to me to use this platform that I have in order to, help prop up other filmmakers, help promote other filmmakers, help give voice to the filmmakers in my own community and others. So actually, next week, both the podcast episodes are going to be talking about, my most recent film. I have the episode coming out next Tuesday is actually the actors and some of the crew are coming in from Kingpin, and we're all talking about the process. And then I'm talking about the creative process behind Kingpin, because we actually have our second official film screening coming up. I was asked to be a part of a 90-day film series, and Kingpin is kicking off the film series, so I'm super stoked about that. And yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super excited where the podcast is going. As always, I'm always going to be on here, ranting about movies and movie analysis and stuff like that, but just incorporating that other side of filmmaking is super exciting. So yeah, make sure you're following us and you stay tuned for all of that stuff. But yes, all of this Georgia news. So to give you a background on the inciting incident that really, really caused all of this, uprising against Georgia. So this law that's going into place in Georgia, that's actually going to go into effect January 2020 if it's not stopped. The ACLU is looking at stopping it through lawsuits, but, we're still in the midst of all of that legislation happening. So the law bans abortions once a fetal heart rate is detected, and that's about 5 to 6 weeks after a woman becomes pregnant. And this is except in cases of rape or incest, but there's still a lot of weird stipulations regardless. So a couple days ago, the bill was challenged, so we're really in the midst of how all of the legislation is going with the bill right now. But, as it stands, it's going to go through, like I said, in January 2020. So a big issue for all these execs, a big, point of contention that people were pointing out was Georgia is such a huge film industry. Now, to give you a background on Georgia's film industry, I believe it was either 2015 or 2016 that Georgia actually passed California in being the state that produces the most films per year. So anything from, Tyler Perry movies to, Marvel movies are shot in Georgia. It's a really, really thriving film scene, especially Atlanta, Georgia. And so, the film industry has a lot of incentives, or a lot of, what is the word for it? It has a lot of weight, and it has a lot of chips and cards it can use in terms of this debate. Pretty much protesters of this bill were reaching out to a lot of individuals in the entertainment industry. Also, a lot of people in the entertainment industry were just speaking out about the bill. So Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams are two, just as an example. They're shooting Lovecraft County in Georgia. It's like a HBO horror drama that's about to come out, and they actually are donating their fees to charities that are battling the Georgia abortion abortion ban. So you have people like that. You have people, I guess, donating to the cause and still working in Georgia, but then you have execs start to get involved, which is really interesting because I particularly haven't really seen movie execs speak out like this, and it's across the board. Netflix, Disney, it's a lot of big companies and big names that are pulling out of Georgia. To give you some more examples, I'm looking at this Axios article that I'll link in the description box down below. So just an idea of like people that are boycotting Georgia. Netflix chief of content suggested that the streaming service is considering boycotting Georgia in light of the state's abortion ban. Reed Morano, he's a film director. He canceled his trip to Georgia in response to the abortion ban. Kristen Wiig pulled an upcoming comedy that she's working on from filming as Georgia, citing the bill as like the reason. The producer of Carol and Stonewall, her name's Christine Vachon. Anyway, her production company 100% just completely pulled out of Georgia. So anywhere from so these people from very small companies to very big companies are boycotting Georgia and pulling out of Georgia, which is a huge issue for the state being the number one, producer of movies and things like that. Because let me see if I can find a stat here really quick, but because there's a lot of tax incentives for filming in Georgia. So like just an idea. Okay, so I'm just reading this impact of the economy section on Wikipedia, not the most credible source, but it just gives you an idea and a basic overview. So the Georgia Film, Music, and Entertainment Office states that more than 700 feature films, TV movies, TV series, single episodes, and pilots have been produced in Georgia since 1972. In the fiscal year 2017, film and TV production had an economic impact in Georgia of $9.5 billion. Which is a lot of money. So, using, I guess, the power the film industry has as leverage on this abortion ban is really interesting to me. So I just want to know, before I get into my opinion on it, I just love to know your opinion. You can share it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can connect with us there at Gentlemen Prefer Cinephiles. I'd love to know what you're thinking. The YouTube comment section of the episode also is a place where you can voice your opinions, because I think it's something that should have a discussion. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the idea that somehow, because it's the entertainment industry, they shouldn't have an opinion on politics. I hear this opinion all the time, particularly Leonardo DiCaprio when he made his best performance Oscar speech and talked about climate change. A lot of people came out and were like, "Why is he just an actor? He should just be talking about acting. He shouldn't blah 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 blah." I think the main issue with that is, one, it's just kind of like I find that it's just a criticism that happens when people see an actor talking about things they don't agree with. People in the entertainment industry and celebrities and people in power like that have a different relationship to the average individual because they connect to the average individual through movies, through entertainment, So I think in a lot of ways they're able to speak to individuals a lot. I mean, now that's not to say that it can't get propagated and there can't be propaganda involved in that, but I do think in a lot of ways a celebrity using their platform to talk about issues is easier for a person to understand than if they were to listen to the news, listen to politics, etc., etc. It's another outlet and another way for people to be able to be informed on things and informed on events. Obviously, people should look at a variety of things, to form their opinion, but I do think that celebrities play a huge part in, helping, form public opinion. And so it just makes sense that they would use their platform for that. It makes sense that these big movie companies would consider, look at Georgia and be like, ooh, not sure if we should continue production there. I know one of the big things, I don't remember if it was the Netflix executive or who specifically said this, but they talked about it from the point of view of, we have a lot of women who work for us. And, if this abortion ban, which is I believe, an unjust attack on women's rights, if that's put into place, women aren't going to want to work for us. And we need to back up our female employees. And we need to know that they're protected. And we need to make sure that we emphasize that they are valued and that, this is treatment. This is legislative treatment that they don't deserve. So, I mean, under the guise of that, rethinking the abortion law and rethinking their relationship to Georgia with the abortion law, it's so important, I think, and it's so significant, and it's really refreshing to see, Because, I mean, there are a lot of tax incentives for filmmakers to still use Georgia and to continue to use Georgia. But the idea that, women's rights and, the role of women in these media companies is in the morals are more important than those tax incentives to these executives is really, really interesting to see. And it's really, really, I guess it's empowering to see, we're still in the very beginning stages of how this is all going to play out. So, I mean, we'll see if that stands through or if that holds up as this goes along. But I think personally that it's a really, really good sign. So yeah. Yes. Okay. So I found the quote from that article that I was talking about. It's the Variety article. I'll also link that in the description box of the YouTube video. Netflix responded to the Variety's request for inquiries and said, "We have many women working on productions in Georgia whose rights, along with millions of others, will be severely restricted by this law." Ted Sarandos, Netflix's chief of content officer, said in an exclusive statement, "It's why we will work with the ACLU and others to fight it in court. Given the legislation has not yet been implemented, we'll continue to film there while also supporting partners and artists who choose not to. Should it ever come into effect, we'd rethink our entire investment in Georgia." I think this is a positive thing. I think this is an exciting thing. I think it's great to see that, the movie industry and Hollywood industry is really stepping up to the plate in terms of saying things because, when we're looking at rethinking our world and when we're looking at how people make opinions on the world and how people kind of like rethink their opinions on the world and process through the world, movies and media and TV, they're so important to that. I would argue it's almost the most important thing to people when, looking at the world around them and learning how to process the world around them. So, seeing these companies react in this way shows that they kind of understand the social responsibility that, these TV shows, these movies, et cetera, have on the general public. And it's also so nice to see an equal amount of men and women standing up for women's rights in this situation. Like everyone from Ron Howard to Kristen Wiig have been really speaking out against this. And it's just so refreshing. You know what I mean? It's just so refreshing and so nice because, I think as a society as a whole, we all need to step up to the plate in terms of, we can't just let these things continue to happen. We need to be more socially conscious. We need to be more conscious of what's happening in Congress and be more conscious about how laws go into effect and how those affect us and how beyond how those affect us, how those affect other people, And so seeing these people take personal responsibility and seeing these people the abortion ban isn't going to affect Ron Howard. But Ron Howard is like, I'm stepping up to the plate. This is going to affect the women I work with. This is going to affect women in a wrong way. And I'm not going to film there again unless Georgia does not put this into effect, which I love that. And I love that power move that Hollywood just did on the film industry in Georgia. Now, that's my personal opinion of it. I would love to know your personal opinion on it. That is today's episode. I am so excited for where the podcast is headed. I'm super stoked about it. I hope you guys are ready for it. You can follow us at Gentlemen Prefer Cinephiles on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can also join us on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play, and YouTube to watch the podcast and listen to the podcast. And I will see you guys tomorrow for a discussion of the remake of The Man Who Knew Too Much. But yes, goodbye. Mwah.